Okay, hello and good afternoon everyone, and welcome to my coronavirus update video number 2. Clearly still filmed at home for the time being, although my next video will be my standard, Sunday homily, and I'll be filming that in church like normal, so that'll look like other videos, but just trying to stay, at home as much as possible for what I can, so. And as of right now, it's about 2:30 on Friday, the 20th of March. So I've had a few solid days of genuine lockdown, saying masses privately, and all of that. Doing okay so far. But what I thought was worthy of another video is I'm a little embarrassed that it took me so long to think of this. As we're getting into this whole lockdown, stay where you are, interact with other people as little as possible, I've actually been through this before, albeit in different contexts. As many of you know, I was in Africa for 2 years in the Peace Corps. I know I constantly talk about that, I know, but it's very relevant this time. I was in Africa in a little place called Burkina Faso. The map is actually on my wall right there. I ran out of batteries in my GoPro, so I was going to show you the map, but I can't do that for this video. My time in Africa was 2 years and 3 months. What happens is you train for 3 months in country together. Then you're assigned your village. And then you go to your village, and here's the relevant part. The Peace Corps challenges you to last 3 whole months alone in your village, not traveling to the capital city at all. And it's okay if you don't make it. Some people had to go to the capital for medical reasons. Other people just cracked and needed to see another person. I made it the whole 3 months. I made it the whole 3 months, and I started going a little loopy around the 2nd month. I made it 2 whole months before I really needed to get out. And while I admit that's not like a pandemic, it was still kind of comparable, because I was told to stay put, don't move around, and be comfortable where you are. And looking back on those 3 months, very difficult months, by the way, comparatively, eating the same general kind of food didn't bother me, because there was only so much I could do about getting extra supplies. Some things you can only get in the capital. So I dealt with that. I was sick of drinking water at room temperature and never any cooler. I dealt with that. Dealing with the lack of running water, no power in my house. All of that I dealt with. What really made that time tough was the lack of companionship. Just not really having anyone to talk to as a fellow American. Obviously, I wasn't alone. I had my villagers, but, I wanted to talk to someone who, knows what I'm talking about as an American. And that was the biggest challenge of those 3 months. So now that we're here in this coronavirus lockdown, that's what's jogging my memory. Being safe in my village in Peace Corps, and just making the best of the situation, knowing that eventually I'll be able to, loosen up on that. Well, I hesitate to call it a requirement, because it was totally okay if you got sick and had to go to the capital or whatever, but it was an interesting challenge. And I think the secret to making it in there is understanding what you had to work with and making the best of it. So I read my books, I prepared for classes because school didn't quite start yet. I got to know the lay of the land. I met people, I lived directly across from the police station, so I met the police officers, I met the principal of my school, all of that was very, very useful. But I think another part of what made that bearable is understanding what I had to work with and what just wasn't really a part of my life for a while. This isn't a story about me, but another friend, again, Can't Leave Village, we discovered the hard way that in Burkina Faso, West Africa, there are chickens and there are cows. However, apparently, it's so hot in Africa, cows produce milk for about 3 months of the year, and chickens lay eggs commonly, as we would expect them, about 3 months of the year. Uh, I don't know how accurate that is. Technically, I wasn't a farmer then, I'm not a farmer now, but I am telling you, in Africa, where there are cows and chickens in every village, it is tough to get an egg or some milk, aside from, the rainy season when that stuff is a little plentiful. So this friend of mine, he got from home no-bake brownies. Very good thing to send in care packages. They can survive, the trip. They require very little extra ingredients, and of course, you don't need an oven, which aren't really in Africa. So my friend got this package of brownies, and one ingredient you did need to add would be an egg. So he tried to substitute it. I forgot what he tried to substitute it with, but it didn't work. It was this inedible just brick of char. So basically, he went to one of his friends, his neighbor or whatever, and said, "Look, buddy, I don't care what you have to do. I don't care how much I have to pay. Can you please find me an egg?" Because he wanted to make these brownies, and he just couldn't make it without them. And we can laugh at that, looking back, like, yeah, 2 years of my life, I had to deal with cooking with no eggs at all. At least not something you could depend upon. There were other places you could get eggs, the street vendors and all that. But to have eggs in your kitchen? I don't know any Peace Corps volunteer of my time in my country that had that. When we'd eat eggs, it was, in a capital city or other places, and I have to wonder where they got the eggs, because the chickens in the village just didn't lay that much. And that's the sort of thing you have to roll with. So maybe the point here for my second video is, this time will be easier for us all if we can focus on what we have to work with and what's just not going to be a part of our life for a little while. I'm bummed that all the restaurants are closed. I dearly hope they can survive however long this is going to go on. But we have things we can work with. And I really do believe, from my time in Africa, you need social interaction. Every single one of you watching now, you need social interaction. And if you don't feel comfortable being around anyone face-to-face for any reason, you should look into some internet-based, communication apps. My philosophy club, my little group that we get together every other month or so, one guy is in the military and one guy is a police officer. So of the 7 of us, 2 of them have absolute orders: you cannot socialize with any non-family member under any circumstance. So they're not getting together no matter what. And the other 5 of us are like, well, maybe we'll make an exception, but we kind of want to limit it. So after talking about it for a little while, we're going to try to do a philosophy club chat over Discord or some other internet-based communication app. So we'll all just stay in our own dens. I'll probably be right here if it goes forward. But I tried to communicate to the guys, maybe you're doing good because it's quarantine day 3. When we're up to quarantine day 12, where you've interacted with no one meaningfully apart from your own family, which is not a bad thing, we need social time. And I really hope the guys take the opportunity to, get together and talk about philosophy, even if we can't get together physically. I would recommend to all of you to do something like that. Call old friends, get on the phone. Hey, write letters, why not? Pen pals can come back. We need social time. In Africa, I was happy to deal with the heat, the lack of running water, all of those things you kind of associate with the difficulties of Peace Corps. I dealt with all of that just fine, and I was a very typical volunteer. What was challenging for being under a quasi-lockdown in Africa was that social dimension of being human. All of us are social creatures, and very few of us are called to a hermit style of living. So if you're feeling that something is off in your life, if you're feeling that this quarantine is really, really draining you emotionally and spiritually, I recommend that you ask yourself whether or not you've gotten enough social interaction, because that is a basic need that all of us need to fulfill. And if you can't meet that social need with face-to-face interaction given the current circumstance, get creative. Find a way to be social with other people in a safe and responsible manner, because we have to care for our physical bodies and flatten the curve for the whole coronavirus. Our physical being is important, but we are more than our physical makeup. We have spiritual, emotional, and mental needs. And for right now, I would summarize that with our need to be social. So consider that. And as always, stay safe and remain healthy. And keep an eye out for my next video, which again will be the Sunday homily. All right. Thank you and God bless.